Ta indicates tawbah. This is tasawwuf, what he said. By ta, first letter, is for tawbah, repentance. This is tasawwuf. You start your spiritual life from repentance, external and internal, both. Second word, swad. He says swad is for safa, purity. Purity of your heart and purity of your soul. Swad, for safa. And safa means purity. Then he says, third letter of tasawwuf is vaw. And vaw is for vilaya. And vilaya means love and friendship of Almighty Allah. Love and friendship. Wali is the lover of Allah and the beloved of Allah. Wali has two meanings, the lover of Allah and the beloved of Allah and friend of Almighty Allah is known as wali. So vilaya, friendship of Allah, this is the third letter it means. And the fourth is fa. Fa is for fana. Fa is for fana. And fana means to finish your desire in desire of Almighty Allah. To finish your desire, to finish your preference in the preference of Allah, to finish your wish in will of Allah, extinguishing yourself and your identity of lusts, identity of your physical personality, identity of likings and dislikings, identity of your own personal preferences, of your nafs. If you extinguish all these identities and finish them into the will, the preference, the amr, the commandment and the order and pleasure of Almighty Allah, this is fana. You have extinguished and finished yourself in Him. He says, this is the fourth letter and here lies the perfection of tasawwuf. So this is the meaning of tasawwuf. Now I will give you a reference of just names and references of some books, the original books which were written on tasawwuf. And these books were written, as I have already mentioned, at the same time when the books on hadith and books on al-fiqh al-Islami were being written and compiled. So there is no room to say and to think that this is a subject, tasawwuf, or an innovation, astaghfirullah, which was introduced in later periods. No, absolutely no. And secondly, authorities, personalities were the same. Those who are doing the work of hadith, same personalities were doing the work of tasawwuf. If they were creating an innovation in Islam, then Bukhari Sharif has gone away. Then there is no place for accepting the Muslim and Bukhari and Tirmidhi and any book of hadith. Because those A'immah, the great authorities who compiled the tasawwuf, are the actual real authorities in the chain of transmission for Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi and every book of hadith. I am talking of those authorities whom Imam Bukhari has relied upon, whom Imam Muslim has relied upon, whom Imam Tirmidhi, Abu Dawood, Nasai, Ibn Majah, then Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal and Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik and Imam Azam Abu Hanifa, everyone who compiled the knowledge of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the form of books of hadith or in the form of books. They relied on certain chain of narrators. They relied on certain chains of transmissions. They relied on certain chain of authorities. They relied upon certain great personalities who were transmitting the knowledge of Holy Prophet, who were transmitting the traditions of Holy Prophet, who were transmitting the sayings of the companions and their companions to them. And they were collecting and compiling their reports in the books. And through this process, the book of Imam Bukhari, Al-Jami As-Sahih, was coming into existence. And Sahih Muslim was being compiled and being written. So if we negate the authenticity, the reliability of these personalities, then you can't find any room for reliability of Sahih Bukhari, Muslim, or any book of hadith. So all literature of Islam has gone away then. Then you have nothing to rely upon. You understand my point? Starting from this point, let me tell you, there are two great personalities who were given a special title first time in the history of Islam in science of hadith. And that title was Amirul Mu'mineen fil Hadith. Amirul Mu'mineen fil Hadith. What I am saying? Amirul Mu'mineen fil Hadith. This is the highest title in the science of hadith ever given to any imam. And after them, the people in later periods, the people coming in later periods, they gave this title to Imam Bukhari. But I am talking of those two personalities who were Amirul Mu'mineen fil Hadith much earlier than Imam Bukhari. And they were shuyukh of Imam Bukhari. They were in the chain of transmissions of Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. Who were these two? One was Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak. Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak. Other was Imam Sufyan al-Thawri. You should be aware of the fact. These both are known as Amirul Mu'mineen fil Hadith. And Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak is the teacher, is the Shaykh of Imam Bukhari's father. Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak is the Shaykh of Imam Bukhari's father. Imam Bukhari's father, Imam Ismail al-Bukhari. He spent many years in the company of Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak and received knowledge from him and served him as a student. So let me explain one another point here. And this Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak, the Shaykh of Imam Bukhari's father, he was one of the most prominent students of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa. One of the most prominent students of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa and his followers in fiqh. This was just a piece of knowledge for you, information. Coming to the same point. So these two great authorities, shuyukh, Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith, Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak and Imam Sufyan al-Thawri. So by being Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith, it means no other scholar of that time had that level of recognition and that level of authority and that level of reliability as these two personalities had enjoyed in the science of hadith and history of hadith. They held the highest titles in the science of hadith. And they are the shuyukh of Imam Bukhari, they are the shuyukh of Imam Muslim, they are the shuyukh of Imam Tirmidhi and all other A'immah of hadith. Everybody finds his name, their name, in their chains of authorities and their chains of transmissions in their book, where they have received the hadith of Holy Prophet from. You understand my point? These two great Imams, both of them were the Sufis of their time. They were Aimma of the Tasawwuf too. They were the original, the Imams of Tasawwuf of very early periods. In the same way, all these Imams, including Imam Azam Abu Hanifa, they were students of Imam Hassan Basri. Imam Hassan Basri, the great Imam of Islam. Rather, one of the greatest Imams of Islam. Everybody got from him through his chain. Most of them, Imam Azam Abu Hanifa, these were students of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa and grand students of Imam Hassan Basri. Grand students. So Imam Hassan Basri was one of the founders of the schools of Tasawwuf. One of the founders of the schools of Tasawwuf. Much earlier than Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim came. Even 100 years before, they died 100 years before birth of Imam Bukhari. 1 century before Imam Bukhari, and Imam Muslim, and Imam Tirmidhi. And Imam Hassan Basri says, I saw among the companions of Holy Prophet 70 Sahaba who they were Sufis of their time. Imam Hassan Basri says, I met 70 Sahaba of Holy Prophet who were Sufi of their time in Haram of Makkah. So Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak, Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith, was one of the earliest authors of Tasawwuf. He died in 181. Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak, the Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith, and very famous book on Tasawwuf which he wrote and authored, and which is known to be one of the original sources of Tasawwuf, that is Kitab al-Zuhd. The original name was Kitab al-Zuhd wal-Raqa'iq, but it is famous just in the name of Kitab al-Zuhd. And this book is readily available on every shop in Makkah and Medina and Jeddah and Saudi Arabia. This book is available in Makkah and Medina and Saudi Arabia, all those shops. He died in 181. So this first book, at that time, Tasawwuf, academically, when they used to write in the terms of hadith, they used to use the term Kitab al-Zuhd, wal-Raqa'iq. This was a term academically used for the science of Tasawwuf. Another book written on the subject of Tasawwuf, its name was also Kitab al-Zuhd. Keep in your mind, most of the scholars and authorities who were writing on the subject of Tasawwuf, everybody was giving the same name to his book. Because this name was famous for Tasawwuf in those days. So you have to differentiate by saying Kitab al-Zuhd li Abdullah bin Mubarak. In Kitab al-Zuhd of Imam Abdullah bin Mubarak. Kitab al-Zuhd of Fulan. Kitab al-Zuhd of Fulan. This is how you can differentiate. Name was same. The second, again, Kitab al-Zuhd was written, and author of this was Imam Waqi' bin al-Jarrah. So keep in your mind, again this scholar and authority was one of the great Imams of Hadith and one of the great reliable authority of Hadith. And you find his name in many, many chains of transmissions in Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud and Sahih. So the Sufi Imams, at the same time, they were transmitting the hadith, which material was being compiled by the Imams of hadith. And at the same time, they were compiling the books on tasawwuf. Because both things were being done with the same hands. So how can we accept it that the same person, as far as the tasawwuf is concerned, becomes an innovator and become a jahil and become a weak person in knowledge. And when the same person in case of transmission of hadith becomes the authoritative and the most reliable person. So dual standards and conflicting standards cannot be accepted. Imam Waqi bin al-Jarrah, he died in 197. Then another Imam, his name was Imam Ibn Abi Shayba. Imam Ibn Abi Shayba. He wrote a very great book on hadith, Musannaf Ibn Abi Shayba. And he is again from the shuyukh of Imam Bukhari and all other Imam of hadith through various chains. And he was student of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa too. And the great Imam of hadith, Imam Ibn Abi Shayba. You read many hundreds and hundreds of hadith you get from Musannaf Ibn Abi Shayba. He is the one who authored Musannaf. The first Musannaf written by him. And the other is Musannaf Abdul Razzaq. Both are students of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa. This Imam Ibn Abi Shayba, he died in 235. He wrote a book on the subject of tasawwuf and suluk. Its name was Kitabul Adab. Kitabul Adab. Adab means beauty of behavior. What does adab mean? Beauty of behavior. To beautify your behavior with Allah, to beautify your behavior with holy prophets, to beautify your behavior with other human beings, to beautify your behavior with your shaykh and shuyukh, to beautify your behavior with your friends, your brothers, your parents, everyone. So beautification of the behavior, this is the main subject of tasawwuf. Theme of tasawwuf. Crux of tasawwuf is adab. Adab. And from this concept, the concept of respect and reverence emerges out. So he wrote the book Al-Adab. Then another great Imam of Hadith and Fiqh, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. Who is not aware of his name? Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, the founder of Al-Fiqh Hanbali. So Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. So he wrote a book, and the name of his book is Kitab al-Zuhd, which became the great original sources of tasawwuf. I have all these books. So Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal wrote a book, voluminous, in 3 volumes, Kitab al-Zuhd. And most of the Aimma of tasawwuf later, they derived the traditions of tasawwuf from Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal's Kitab al-Tasawwuf. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal wrote another book on tasawwuf, and its name was Kitab al-Wara'. Al-Wara' is known as abstinence, abstaining from the doubtful things. Taqwa is wariness. All these things are the subjects of tasawwuf. These are the subjects. These are not the subjects of fiqh. You take any book of fiqh al-Islami, you won't find these subjects, these chapters. Any book of al-fiqh, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, Imam Shafi, Imam Azam Abu Hanifa, or later fuqaha, you don't find any chapter on taqwa. You don't find any chapter on wara'. You don't find, you understand the point? You don't find any chapter on ikhlas. You don't find any chapter on mahabba. You don't find any chapter. All these things are the subject of tasawwuf. And you don't find these subjects as a chapter in the books of Aqidah. You find these things in books of Hadith because Hadith is a comprehensive thing like Holy Quran. Everything has to be present in Quran and everything has to be available in Hadith because every knowledge has been derived from either Quran or Hadith or through both. So he wrote another book, Kitab al-Wara'. Now one more book in the same days was written, and that was written by Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi. Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal died in 241 Hijrah, and Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi, he died in 243. He died in 240. So, he wrote many books on Tasawwuf. The great Imam. And Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, up to many years, used to sit in his company. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal used to sit in the company of Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi. In the beginning, once he asked one of his friends, that person was one of the murids of Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi, one of his followers. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal asked him that Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi, I have heard he visits your house often or frequently. So whenever any evening when he has to come to your house, please inform me. I want to sit in a room hidden from him, and sitting there I want to see him and I want to listen to him. So his friend arranged for Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal that evening when Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi had planned to come along with his followers. So they came, they prayed Isha, and they sat. So Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal could see him and they couldn't see him. He could see them. So after Isha they sat in a circle, halaqa. This is a very famous event, and dozens and dozens of Aimma, Ulama, Muhaddiseen, they have written on this event, and none of the authorities have denied of that. None of the authorities, rather they have interpreted this event in their own way. So he saw him. So Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi sat in a halaqa, and his followers were sitting in the circle, and they didn't utter any word. He didn't utter any word. He didn't speak. He just sat down. And some few followers and the people who came along with him, they also sat down in a circle, and they just wanted watching his face. They kept quiet. There was a complete silence for a couple of hours, and he was also silent, just remembering Almighty Allah in his heart, and they were watching his face and getting blessings through his face. So the whole circle was silent. Then somebody broke the silence, and he put one question on Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi. He answered. When he answered the question, most of the people sitting in the halaqa, they started weeping and crying, screaming. Then they started weeping and crying loudly, and the tears were showering from their eyes, and there was a very strange spiritual state and condition on everyone. At that moment, when that man, the host, saw this very strange position of each and every person sitting in the halaqa of Imam Muhasibi, he thought that he should go and see what is happening on Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. So he, from other way, entered to that room to see what Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal is doing. When he saw him, he was also crying, and he has left his own position. He was so much deeply grieved, and he was crying that he was not in proper senses. He had lost his senses. He stood there for a while, and when Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal came back to his senses, the halqa was finished, they went away. He said, "What happened to you?" I said, "I can't say." He said, "Wallah, I swear by God, I have never seen a person like Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi. And I have never heard the utterances or speech like him." This was Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi. So he wrote a book, and the name of his book is Risalatul Mustarshideen. Risalatul Mustarshideen. Fortunately, this book is here with me today. All other books are in Pakistan. I had no plan to discuss these things, but this book always remain with me. I love this book. I just keep this book in my bag during my travels. This is the book of Imam Haris bin Asad al-Muhasibi, Risalatul Mustarshideen, the Risala for the seekers of Hidayah. Then he wrote another book, Kitabul Qasd wa Ruju' ila Allah. Kitabul Qasd wa Ruju' ila Allah. He wrote another book, its name is Al-Masail fi Zuhud. Kitab Al-Masail fi Zuhud. He wrote another book, its name is Kitabul Ri'aya. Ri'aya, the concession. He wrote another book, its name is Haqiqatut Tawakkul. So Imam Haris bin Asad Muhasibi wrote many books on tasawwuf. These are few original authorities, original books. Before everybody, before Imam Sulami, before Imam Hajwairi, before Imam Kushairi, you understand? Before Imam Abu Nasr Siraj al-Tusi, before Imam Abu Talib al-Makki, all authorities on tasawwuf who came just prior to each and everyone, before Imam Junaid al-Baghdadi, before Imam Sari al-Saqati, before Imam Shibli, Abu Bakr al-Shibli, prior to everyone. These books were written on tasawwuf, and then the writings and the authorship it carried on. Then came Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim and Abu Dawud and Ibn Majah. Everybody made a chapter in his book. Imam Bukhari fixed a chapter in his book, Sahih al-Bukhari, Kitab al-Riqaq. That is a chapter of tasawwuf. The name is Kitab al-Riqaq, but the subject is tasawwuf. Imam Muslim wrote a chapter in his Jami' al-Sahih, Kitab al-Zuhd wal-Raqa'iq. Kitab al-Riqaq. Riqaq is from Riqqa. Riqqa is softness of heart. Softness of heart. The subject of heart is the subject of tasawwuf. And then he wrote Kitab al-Zuhd wal-Raqa'iq. Imam Muslim brought 2 chapters on tasawwuf in Jami' al-Sahih. Then Imam Ibn Majah, he wrote a book on tasawwuf in his Sunan, Kitab al-Zuhd. Imam Tirmizi, he wrote a chapter in his book Jami' al-Tirmizi, Kitab al-Zuhd. And again, Kitab Sifat al-Qiyamah, wal-Raqa'iq wal-Wara'. So I leave because then there is a long list of Aimma of Hadith who wrote many books on tasawwuf, this subject. And they are known to be the Hadith sources of tasawwuf. All tasawwuf, material of tasawwuf available in these books is in the form of Hadith. So tasawwuf primarily is based on Hadith and Quran. These were the original sources of the early centuries, even before compilation of Bukhari, Muslim and Tirmidhi. I just mentioned a few books out of hundreds which were written in the early centuries of Islam, the authoritative centuries. I have just mentioned a few names, just to explain this fact that the tasawwuf as a science, as a subject, as a practice, it would be haram to say, and it would be an ignorance to say, and it would be a misguidance to say that it is an innovation, or it was introduced from some outer sources. No, these were our imams of hadith and tafsir of Quran and imams of fiqh who compiled tasawwuf and transmitted the hadith to Ummah. So this is an authoritative aspect which is always to be kept in consideration. فما علينا إلا البلاغ.
نور العين يا طه الزين يا نور العين يا طه الزين اشفع لي غدا عند الله خايف من نيراني يا نور العين يا طه الزين يا نور العين يا طه الزين اشفع لي غدا عند الله خايف من النيران النار لا النار لا النار لا النار لا تحرق لسان من صلى على النبي يا نور العين يا طه الزين يا نور العين يا طه الزين